Hi there and a very warm welcome. You're watching WION World is One News with me, Molly Gambhir. Welcome to our special edition where we will touch upon three special issues. First up, the internet's dark web is throwing up a number of question marks. This after authorities shut down two such illegal practices online. Many others have now cropped up, throwing up a number of questions. Also on the program, we will take you through how today is Earth Overshoot Day, which essentially means that we have today utilized all of this year's allowance of natural resources, and also some special images and visuals offered by NASA. All of that coming up over the next 30 minutes. First up, decoding dark web. My colleague Sahil Manaktala explains what dark web is all about and what the threat really is. Sahil?
Thank you, Molly. So basically, when you search for anything on a search engine, you're only scratching the surface of the internet. There are so many things on the internet that you can't actually find, such as a person's bank details, such as a news website that requires a subscription, or a hidden website that has been kept hidden for a very particular reason. And that's where it gets interesting and brings me to my second point. Now, the second point about this is that everything is accessible through a special software. If you want to see a hidden website, you can't just do it on your average Google Chrome or on your Firefox. You have to basically use a special software or browser that will enable you to access such websites. This layer of internet is often known as the dark web. And this brings me to my third point. It's often completely encrypted. So basically that means even if a user's identity is hidden, and as a result making it very, very difficult for a law enforcement agent or agency to track someone down. And that's why dark web is becoming a hotbed for illegal activity. And that brings me to my second graphic. So basically, online crime is on a rise. It's completely booming, and it's become a hotbed, like I said, for all sorts of activity. I'm talking about gun trafficking, I'm talking about drug trafficking. You can get forged documents. You can even hire a contract killer if you want to. Obviously, I'm not advising anyone to do that, but there is that option as well. Another thing that it does is that it attracts terrorist organizations and terrorists to the online network as well. Many organizations such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda are actually using the dark web to spread hate and to preach all sorts of violence. And finally, the final point being that there's a lot of distribution of child abuse images. The dark web is full of child pornography. And if that last point doesn't sum up how dangerous the dark web is, I don't know what else will. Back to you, Molly.
Thanks very much for that, Sahil. That essentially puts into context and sets the tone for our discussion. We are going to now take a look at what the real challenge and the need of the hour really is. In a massive blow to criminal darknet activities, a globally coordinated operation by American and European authorities had led to the shutdown of two of the largest online black markets, Alphabet and Hansa Market, in July. But despite the intense crackdown on marketplaces hidden in dark spaces of the web, authorities have not quite been able to stop illegal online activities from thriving. Our next report takes a closer look.
It's not just the real world that has underground markets. The internet also houses a plethora of black marketplaces. Quite like in the real world, it's not easy to keep a track of these underground websites. But just last month, in what came as a big development, the US and European police managed to shut down two of the biggest dark web marketplaces, Alphabet and Hansa. These platforms were involved in online trade of drugs, software and guns. The bust was seen as a big blow to all criminals and users who operate within the safe corners of the internet, but as expected, much like a hydra, several more heads have now popped up. According to Israeli cybersecurity firm Cyberint, trade on various dark web's illegal markets have boomed since Alphabet and Hansa shut down on July 20th. According to the numbers, Dream Market is now the biggest illegal store on the dark web and had its number of listings increased by 3.9%. The next biggest site, TradeRoute, saw a 16.3% gain in its overall listings of forged documents. Meanwhile, Tochka, a site that specializes in illegal and prescription drugs, claimed the biggest boost. Its listings rose by 28.1%. Wall Street Market, a relatively new platform with a more polished design, experienced a similar lift. Its number of listings grew by 25.4%. These findings reveal that the takedowns of Alphabay and Hansa have certainly not discouraged sellers. If anything, it could well be just the tip of the iceberg, which means law enforcement agencies must double their efforts to crack down on these dangerous dark web markets. How they achieve this is yet to be seen. Bureau Report, WION.
Let's break this down further for the benefit of our viewers. Joining us on this special broadcast this evening is Jiten Jain, cyber expert. We will also be in just a short while be joined by the head of Cybersecurity and Internet Governance Initiative, Mr. Arun Kumar. We do have him already with us. First up to you, Mr. Jain. Help our viewers understand, after the authorities had cracked down on two of the biggest illegal acts on dark web space, why is it that we see this market only thriving after that massive crackdown?
Well, I think it's it's a double-edged sword. If you go after one side and you shut it down, it doesn't actually have immediate deterrent effect on the customers or the suppliers. They simply shift to another website. So, I mean, the demand and supply actually does not get changed. It remains intact. Only thing is that there is a shift from one website to another of all the customers. So in the same case where, after Alphabay has shut down, we are seeing a huge increase in the customer traffic to other, dark websites like Dream Market and all. So it would not have an immediate effect, but in the long run, yes, it will have a effect in the sense that people are scared that other websites may also be monitored or may have already been compromised by FBI or other agencies. So people are scared to actually participate in trading on those websites. So it will have a long-term effect, but we will not see an immediate effect.
All right, let me also get in, Mr. Kumar. There has been a massive crackdown by authorities. There have also been discussions about how dark web needs to be shut down completely. Do you think that's even possible?
I think by the very nature of the platform, it's difficult for one law enforcement agency or one national authority to shut down one website or a portal of the dark web, let alone the dark web itself. So if you notice, most of the major takedowns of Alphabay or even Pirate Bay a few years ago and Hansa have happened on account of interagency coordination that happens not only within the country between, say, intelligence agencies as well as the law enforcement agency of that particular country, but often involves the Interpol and a counterpart from the United States or a major European jurisdiction. So by the very nature of the technology, requires interagency cooperation and international cooperation, given that most often a person sitting, say, in Asia is probably managing and also selling and buying products on the dark web in another part of the world altogether.
All right, so if the issue is as grave, there's also the other side to it. Mr. Jain, if I can come to you with that, what would you like to say to supporters of dark web, for example, human rights advocates and even experts and whistleblowers who talk about how dark web essentially is the last line of defense for those who are actually fighting against government spying on its citizens?
Well, honestly speaking, the human rights activists or the people, who are running some sort of dissent movements in the countries, they form a very small, thin minority on the dark web. The majority, 99% of the people who are active or, operating or trading on the dark web are basically trading illegal things like, selling guns, buying drugs, even sometimes, trading porn and all.
Right.
So 99% of the dark web traffic is obviously against humanity, not for any human rights. Yes, there are some exceptions where human rights movements or activists in some countries where there is a heavy internet monitoring and censorship in place. They use dark web to communicate, but they are a very thin minority. And I think whatever actions are being taken are in the larger public good and in the larger interest of society.
Mr. Kumar, governments around the world have considered banning or restricting access to the dark web. Do you think that that's the right way to go about it?
I think by their very nature, governments are mostly disposed towards banning any technology that they are unable to control beyond a certain point. And I think as my colleague on the panel also mentioned, there are enough reasons to take down certain websites. But I think there ought to be a distinction made between the dark web, which basically peddles in substances that are under most national jurisdictions illegal, such as, for instance, child pornography, or on drugs, which under the laws of most countries would be illegal to buy and sell. We are also talking about anonymization technologies, which are quite different. So there are a whole suite of applications and technologies available to human rights activists, dissidents, and pretty much anybody who wants to communicate securely through the internet and reach another person. The problem is that the dark web currently uses applications like the Tor browser or other technologies that allow folks to communicate with each other anonymously. The problem with the government going after the dark web is that they are going to throw the baby with the bathwater, in the sense that they were probably going to ban applications like Tor, which I think would be a heavy-handed measure.
All right, Mr. Jain, would you agree that dark web as a space is not just used for illegal activities, as its supporters point out and argue constantly? It's also used, for example, by privacy activists. And then, do you agree then that this aspect of anonymity is important for this new breed of users?
Well, anonymity, no doubt, is important, but there are several channels of anonymizing or encrypted communication available on the normal internet, that you don't have to look for dark web just for the sake of anonymity and privacy. So I do not agree with the fact that dark web plays any major contribution or any major supporting role in the human rights movements or activism movements. I think it's just a small little propaganda that just to have two sides of the debate. But as I said, in the opening statement, that majority of, not majority, I mean a humongous majority, like 99% of the dark web population is basically involved in illegal trade of drugs and arms. And also coming to the point of actually restricting access to dark web websites, I think it's technically almost very difficult or impossible, you may say, to control access to these websites. I mean, come on, governments are not able to block access to terror content or even the child pornographic content on the regular internet. So controlling websites or censoring websites on the dark web is just like, out of their, it's not possible technically. It's a different world.
Mr. Kumar, let me put this across to you. Should, according to you, legitimate companies be encouraged to engage in business activities in the dark web space at all?
Sure, but this is what we are not seeing. We are not seeing companies engaging in transactions for legitimate purposes over the dark web. There's something to be said about anonymity with regard to commercial transactions that are above board. Most of the stuff that is being sold on the dark web are products that would be illegal under national jurisdictions or international treaties or conventions. And in many cases, they are not operated by companies that are registered under, say, the Indian Companies Act or some other legislation of another country. They are individuals or groups of people who have no known legal association and use the dark web as a platform where they can, a marketplace where they can find buyers and sellers for contraband and goods and services that would be illegal. So I cannot imagine a situation where a company for a legitimate purpose would need to resort to an anonymous a backdoor or an anonymous website or a portal to sell its goods to consumers. It would raise a whole host of problems, including the legality of what they sell and buy, and it would also raise a problem for authorities in a country to raise tax from the commercial activities of that company.
All right, Mr. Kumar, I'm going to let you go on that note. But Mr. Jain, I do have another question for you. And just to also summarize this for the benefit of our viewers, as we let you go, given the dangers surrounding dark web, is it, according to you, high time that the government takes this issue as seriously as it should and actually crack down upon the space? And is that even possible?
Well, I agree with you here that governments needs to be very, very active, and not even active. I think they should rather be proactive enough to, have some sort of monitoring presence on the dark web. Normal internet monitoring is not possible over the dark web. So what you need to actually is some underground operatives operating on behalf of government or agencies, keeping an eye on different activities on dark web. It's like, putting your people inside that place to monitor what is going on. And this is how Western agencies have been operating. This is how FBI and other, Western agencies have been gaining intelligence and then cooperating with other agencies to shut down websites, seize dark websites like Alphabet. So what you actually need is a very proactive government presence in a very clandestine manner in the dark web to actually first get a sense of figure what is going on and then take proactive action to, if possible, take them down.
All right, Mr. Jain, appreciate all of those views and perspectives. This, of course, is just a sample of the kind of challenges that dark web poses, something that is also crucial for the government to crack down upon. We're going to leave it there for the moment. That, in a sense, is a wrap on the first segment of our special discussion. But with that, we're taking a very short break. And up next, we get you more about how today is the Earth Overshoot Day and what that means. Stay with us.